I watched the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And what that debate came down to is a bunch of loud lies, loud, very clear lies, and low, unclear truths. This king who I've encountered on Twitter goes by the name Booker G. Washington. Dope name on Twitter. Shout out to this king. He had probably the most accurate analysis of the debate that I saw, as he was live tweeting it. He said everything Trump's saying is mixed with lies and loud and clear. Everything Biden's saying is mostly true, but hard to hear. That's damn near poetry, goddamn, basically poetry. But it sums things up perfectly. But yet and still, most people in the punditry after the debate was saying that the debate went to the motherfucker who was loud and clearly lying. We're in bad shape, y'all. We're in bad shape. Let's talk about it briefly. Okay? Before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am your homeboy first, and this is the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on something. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button, put all your people on it. I want to try, leading up to this election, make sure I give y'all something politically. I think that's important. Because we're in a tough time. See, like if you're black, you've always been in tough times in this country. But right now, the choices we have for president, honestly, neither is good. But one is horrific. And that's Donald John Trump, y'all. I mean, that's clear. And watching the debate and seeing how Biden performed and seeing how he's clearly impaired. And yes, the job is not debating. That's not what the job is. But as a president, you do have to sell your policies to the American people, galvanize the American people so the American people can put pressure on Congress, to get your agenda passed. You do have to galvanize the world's democracies because you are the leader of the free world. You feel me? So the way he performed in that debate does make you think that maybe he wouldn't be able to carry out those duties in a second term. And I'll kind of get into that momentarily. Because given everything I just said to you, if come November, I go into my polling place and I see Joe Biden's name on that goddamn ballot versus Donald John Trump, I'm telling you right goddamn now, I'm finna vote for Joe Biden. Yes, I am. If that's the choice I have, again, you gotta remember now, I'm somebody with that in these primaries where we pick the candidates. There's never been a primary for president that I have voted for Joe Biden. Okay? Just didn't happen. But once he showed up on my ballot in the general election, and my choice was between him and Donald Trump, that motherfucker got my vote. And if that same thing happens this year, if we make it to November, he gonna get my vote again. Why? Because this motherfucker Donald John Trump has never, ever, ever been qualified to be president of the United States. And I'm not talking about constitutionally qualified. You just got to be 35, be born here. You ain't got to have money, even though he got money. You ain't got to be famous, even though he is famous. You ain't got none of that shit. But in terms of the skills, the intelligence, the knowing politics, and I'm not talking about knowing how to get people to vote for you, that part of politics. I'm talking about knowing how the government runs, knowing how our alliances run, knowing what our alliances are, why we have those alliances, all that kind of shit. He ain't got it, man. He never has. He's a horrible fucking human being. If you watched that debate, you saw that man sit up there and lie. Now, some may argue that some of the shit that Joe Biden was saying were lies. And I like the way this king put it. He said what Joe Biden is saying is mostly true. And if you keep it with politics, that is very accurate. Yeah, he's probably embellishing some shit to make himself in his administration seem better than what it has been. Okay. But overall, you can go check the numbers mostly and see what the fuck he's saying is what happened. Meanwhile, this motherfucker Trump acting like he ain't no 34-time felon, that Joe Biden is the motherfucker that the reason why he facing all these felons. No, he ain't. Joe Biden did not make Donald Trump stick his dick in Stormy Daniels and then try to cover that shit up, falsifying his business records to cover that shit up. Joe Biden did not make that motherfucker do that. Joe Biden, that's one case. Joe Biden did not make Donald Trump sit up there and incite that insurrection. Joe Biden did not do that. We all saw that with our own fucking eyes, what happened on that day. That's a whole nother case. The man facing case after case after case. Joe Biden did not make that motherfucker get on that phone and be putting pressure on them folks in Georgia, talking about how many votes he needed and shit like that. Joe Biden didn't make that man do that. Like, so much of the shit that Donald Trump has done is on tape, dog. Joe Biden pointed out that Trump said that fuck shit about Charlottesville, that there was good people on both sides, fine people on both sides, whatever he said like that. And the man trying to act like that was taken out of context. We heard you, man. This wasn't that long ago. We were alive. This motherfucker trying to act like life was so great 4 years ago. Motherfucker, 4 years ago was 2020. 2020 is one of those years that books will be written about how fucked up that shit was. You had two seismic events happen in that year, both of which he handled horribly. Did he cause either one? No. Did Donald Trump cause COVID? No. Did he handle it horribly? Hell yes. This son bitch was telling folks to inject bleach, that it would clear it up. This was just 4 years ago. Can y'all not remember 4 years ago? You remember your ass was stuck up in the house? You remember folks were dying left and right? You remember motherfucker goddamn bodies were being put up in trucks and shit? You remember that? Do you not remember that? Folks left here in your family behind this COVID shit, dog. And this man sat up here. He knew it. He knew this shit was deadly, deadly. He sat up there and talked to that journalist about it, Bob Woodward, one of the greatest journalists of all time. He talked to that man about it. Bob motherfucking ass was on some fuck shit by not releasing that information to us. because he had a book coming out. He wanted to keep the shit in his book. But Trump knew that shit was airborne and didn't tell us shit. Tried to act like everything was Gucci. Handled that shit horribly. Yeah, under his administration, the motherfuckers did what they needed to do to go ahead and develop them vaccines quickly. But this man, when his people in his camp came out being anti-mask and anti-vaccine, you ain't see him up here pushing back on that shit for real like that. Hell, his goddamn ass took the vaccine and trying to act like he didn't, I guess. He tried to act like, well, he down with all these folks that's just for taking what the Aaron Rodgers of the world and shit. Trump took that shit. That's COVID. The lynching of George Floyd. Did Trump cause that cop to do that? Did Trump cause racism in America? Did Trump cause police brutality? Did he cause racial discrimination? No. His response to it, though, was god awful. God awful. Did he use the bully pulpit of the presidency to calm the anger that we felt after that? Shit, no. Them motherfuckers said when the looting started, the shooting started. That's a quote from the president of the United States. This some bitch went out there, had the military move protesters out the way so he could stand out there in front of a church with a goddamn Bible upside down. This man was horrible. And historians have called him the worst president ever. Now, honestly, I need to tighten up on my early American presidents. Presidents 1 through 18. Okay. Because in my expertise, what I had to teach as a high school U.S. history teacher, I had to teach U.S. history from 1877 to the present. So I had to cover Rutherford B. Hayes on up. Okay. So just talking about the presidents that I've had to teach about, that motherfucker the worst. But these historians say, no, this man the worst of all time. Come on, man. I know there are some things that many don't like about Biden. I know Biden is old. I know his speech is much slower. He's not a galvanizer. He's not an energizer. He's not somebody who motivates you like Obama. Obama, he was electric when he was on the campaign trail. He exuded confidence and shit like that. He had all the swagger. I get that shit for real, for real. Some of the things that Biden promised, he hasn't come through on, in part because, goddamn it, we have a divided Congress right now. The House of Representatives is run by the Republicans. The Senate is run by the Democrats. I get that. But I want us to start thinking about politics in terms of who can I vote for that I think I can negotiate with? Who do you think you can vote for who you think you could nudge into doing what the fuck you want them to do? Who would be more likely to implement the shit that you won't implement it? Who would be more likely to do so? That's the mindset you should have at every election, whether it's the presidential election on down to your motherfucking city mayor or city councilman. Which of these candidates is more aligned with the way I think and what the fuck I want, and who do I think, if I was really on my activism shit, who would listen to me more? And of these two, for most of the people that I fuck with, most of the people who follow me and watch me, that choice is clear. The choice is clear. But let's talk about Biden's frailty. Okay, let's talk about his frailty. And let me offer somebody who I have to teach about in my most profitable business, which is educational consulting, and somebody I taught about during my career as a teacher. Okay. This is somebody who could not walk, period, at all. For real, for real. Not on his own. Not without the help of others. Not without metal braces attached to his legs. Okay. Could not walk nor stand without these things during his presidency. And for the time period that I am required to teach about, 1877 to the present, this motherfucker to go for that time period. Okay. And the person I'm talking about is this guy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president from 1933 to 1945. This is the president who came in uh, and really helped us through the Great Depression by implementing those New Deal programs. Okay. Uh, one New Deal program that y'all know, everybody that's watching know about this New Deal program. Social Security. Ever heard of that? That's this dude. And we talking about Joe Biden walk slow. This motherfucker could not walk at all. At all. We got the war with between Ukraine and Russia going on. We got the war between Israel and Hamas going on. And we're worrying about how Joe Biden can manage those things. This motherfucker right here led us through World War II. Most of it. Through most of it. He died in 45, as you see here. And his vice president, Harry Truman, finished things off in that one. But for the most part, they were this motherfucker right here. Now you may say, well, first, you said he couldn't walk. You ain't say nothing wrong with his mind. True. But near the end, that motherfucker was sick. Now he was sicker than a motherfucker. You see how he looks right here? I can show you another picture. That shows him and what he looked like after he had been up in that bitch for a while. Okay. This photo was taken during World War II. And he was sitting down with the other members of the so-called Big Three. Okay. Prime Minister of Great Britain, sitting down with the dictator of Russia. Okay. And you can see, remember the picture I just showed you? And you're going to see he looks very fucking different in this picture. Okay. There you go. All right. Right here, that's Winston Churchill, former Prime Minister of Great Britain. Over here, that's Joseph Stalin, former dictator of the Soviet Union. Just think Russia. And there's FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That motherfucker sick as a fuck. Nah, he's sick right there, but he's still smoking that square. You got folk like that today, be sick as a dog. They still gonna hit that square, drink that liquor. You know what it is. But very different man. This man won the fucking presidency. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 motherfucking times. 4. Okay. And he's sick as a dog right there. Not only from polio. Polio is the reason why he couldn't walk, y'all. My goddamn arms bigger than his legs were because of polio. But he also had heart problems and all kind of other shit, you know what I'm talking about, from the drinking and the smoking and the stress. And yes, this son bitch while he implemented a lot of programs that helped this country, he left us hanging as black people. He left us hanging because he was a Democrat, Northern Democrat, and saying you cutting them deals with them Southern Democrats and shit like that. Not to push anti-lynching bill, for instance, to leave us out of shit like we were excluded from some social security benefits and shit like that. All right. So he definitely fit into I haven't read any racist quotes from him, but he definitely fit into one of these motherfuckers that either he was racist or struck deals with their ass. You feel me? That pretty much was all of them at this time. So I'm putting that over there. Unfortunately, as black people, when we study history, it's fucked up that we had to look at it like that. So we had to judge to make a judgment on all of these folks. You have to set that over there like, okay, and just assume that these motherfuckers either were racist or being anti-racist was not top of mind for them. So moving that out of the way, this motherfucker was hella effective as a president while being fucking disabled. Okay? So the job of the president, bro, ain't to be able to get up there and make speeches and shit like that, or to be able to go up there and whoop somebody in the goddamn debate. That ain't the job of the president. The job of the president is to execute the law, to help negotiate treaties, to represent us on the world stage, to suggest laws to Congress, to nominate justices for the Supreme Court. These are jobs of the president. To choose a cabinet, which is basically the presidential advisors for all these departments that really run the federal government. This is the job of the president. And so if we are choosing someone to handle those responsibilities between an old loud liar and an old low, mostly truth teller, you gotta go with that motherfucker. You gotta go with Joe Biden, man. Clearly the better option. Clearly the better option. It's not an option to sit out, y'all. That does not move the needle for us. Sitting out, I be hearing folks say, vote down ballot. Just heard Killer Mike doing the BET Awards, telling everybody it's more important to vote for your city councilman and your local prosecutor. Bullshit. It's not more important. It's equally important. All those elections matter as well. But that shit ain't just more important than the motherfuckers at the top. Because think about our lives as black people in this bitch. Think about our lives. Emancipation Proclamation, which didn't truly end slavery, but that came from the president. 13th Amendment, which actually ended slavery, that shit started federally. You feel me? 14th Amendment, granting citizenship to the newly freed people. That shit starts federally. 15th Amendment, granting the right to vote to black men. That's federal shit. Brown v. Board of Education, that's a Supreme Court decision. The shit that integrated public schools, that's a Supreme Court decision. U.S. Supreme Court. Who nominates the judges for that shit? The President of the United States. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, the law that ended segregation, legal segregation in this country. That's a federal fucking law. That shit was passed by Congress and signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, which allows a motherfucker like me who lives in Mississippi to even be having this discussion about some damn elections. That was passed by the U.S. Congress and signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson. The Fair Housing Act of 1968. That's federal legislation. Goddamn Killer Mike is known for buying up real estate and shit. Now the shit he doing with his money from rapping would be moot if it wasn't for that law. That's federal legislation. So yeah, that local shit matters, but see, once upon a time, these local motherfuckers didn't give a fuck what was going on federally. They were gonna fuck over us however they wanted to. Especially where I live in Mississippi, where Killer Mike from in Georgia, shit. You want to get them local motherfuckers to do shit? You had to get some federal action on their ass. So that federal election does matter as well, y'all. And if you're choosing between Donald John Trump and Joe Biden, I know it ain't the best choice. I feel y'all on that. Okay? I watched the debate. Now, I also watched the next day. Joe Biden came out the campaign rally. That bitch was a little early in the day. Motherfucker, you know, tonight feeling a little better. You know what I'm saying? Performed well. Had some fire in him. Had some vigor in him. Say he know how to fight. God damn it, that's what the fuck we needed then. See you later at night. Now you may argue, well, goddamn, first, it's some real shit that happened late night. Some shit that happened 3 a.m. People love to say 3 a.m. What if something happens in the world middle of the night and the president has a response? I get all that. I do. But Trump old in a motherfucker too, y'all. And that some bitch crazy. So the choice is clear. Choice is clear. And I know some are thinking, well, what if Biden dies? That shit happened. That shit has happened before. The motherfucker I just showed you, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he died. After the 4th time he got elected. Okay, he got elected for the 4th time in 1944. His his 4th term started in 1945. He died in 1945. Harry Truman took over. Harry Truman went on to be one of the top presidents as well. Again, everything that I'm saying, you have to remember now what time I'm talking about. And remember, you can probably go read quotes from Harry Truman calling us the N-word and shit like that. Okay? I get that. You know how I feel about all them motherfuckers. You know what I'm talking about. So I hate that this is our experience, that we had to grade these folks like that. But I'm just talking about within the context of what this country is and who these people are who've been presidents. He went on to be a consequential president. Okay. Now, some may argue he's a war criminal for dropping those atomic bombs on Japan. That's a fair criticism. Others may say he was right to do that because he protected American lives. Y'all want to have that debate? I would love to hear y'all have that debate. Okay. We've had this happen before. Okay. And the country went on. The country was all right with the vice president taking over after the president died from sickness, from illness. And of course, it happened other times when presidents have been assassinated. But the country kept moving. The country didn't become a fucking dictatorship. The country didn't become a white nationalist haven. The country didn't become a white ethno state. That's the kind of shit these folks on. These folks on some Christian nationalist shit. These folks on the Trump side, the folks who pushing this Project 2025 shit. If you watch the BET Awards, you heard Taraji P. Henson talk about that. The folks who pushing that shit sounding eerily similar to like the fucking Taliban over there in Afghanistan. It's just them boys pushing their extreme version of Islam, and these folks are pushing their extreme version of Christianity, mixed with their fiscal conservatism. Because what they really want is those tax cuts and that deregulation. They want that. And they want to see the unquestioned supremacy of white people. That's what you're seeing over there with Trump. And I know some folks try to both sides the parties. Come on, miss me with that, man. You looking at Joe Biden, but show me the Kamala Harris in the Republican Party. Show me the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the Republican Party. Show me the Cori Bush in the Republican Party. Then we can talk with that both sides shit. Until then, miss me with that bullshit and the choice is clear. Choice is clear. Either you're going to vote for lies, clear lies, loud lies, or you're going to vote for a motherfucker who pretty boring, like slowed down considerably, but it's mostly giving you the truth. And again, don't be afraid of his running mate. Don't buy into that sexism. Don't buy into that racism. Because a lot of the shit about his age is, if he dies, a black woman will be president. And you saw how these motherfuckers acted with a black man as president. You know damn well they don't want no black woman, but that woman's qualified. She is qualified. She can do the job. So vote accordingly and don't fall for the bullshit. Put it on something.